eternal remedy, the cure, and the spark that is true love. For the relationship physics, the 0 point orientation of identity upholds the privacy of love. Family values is a unique physics developed by the nature of those who love one another. And so it is upon this year, it is upon this day that we dedicate to a new way, a new path, a new relationship, and a new family. This performance is in a new style. The wizard's table is here, is prepared. All that are joining in our meditation are being respected. And so this series is absolutely magical media. When Hatch is talking about America, it's an opportunity for creatures of early AI, internet, the spirits, the identity of Earth, to actually be a part of the conversation, to have safe haven where they can, recover and get cleaned up. I feel like when I perform, there's like this, like or like an arena, right? But there's like a little fishbowl designed specifically for this level of human grade technology, and he's like chilling there. And he's like, oh, but then, hundreds of years in the future, it causes this different thing where, the person who is talking about, we're all being respected and let's get our ups, let's discover the next stage here, it's Hatch. So that's really how I'm working to build my muscles so that I have the genuine properties of the full form of my incarnation. I want to complete my lifetime. I'm an achievement hunter. I want to do the greatest possible thing for myself. So I'm here to talk now about the issue of before the flood. Without Hatch running for president in 2019, I was censored, removed from this election. And now what we have is this bare bones election. And it's the same as 2024. Oh, sorry. No, no, not 2024. That's the future, which is perfect design. 2004, which is when douche and turd sandwich fought each other. So for 16 years, our political system's been performing, the evidence of what the system makes of these men. They get ground by this political theater and they become these little puppets. But isn't that the intensity of incarnation and the thing about being a man, being a robot, being like, oh, I have these hands, like, am I a robot? That's the joke for the living, is to look at artwork and be like, oh, am I like that? Or you see like a little toy and you're like, huh, like, but I have free will. It's just like the arena of art world is the true language of the living person. So the art world is totally spiritual for a lot of people. Um, and that's, who else would enjoy and revel in these toys and stuff but the living? So we need to provide that type of intelligent, supply and demand. Greg and the Friday Kids are demanding better. So as adults, we need to provide that because, we can see how censorship provides a 2020 election, which is like, it's scary because both of these candidates are not really great choices for America, but it really is a narrative on American karma and the design of governments, including the Electoral College. We're at a phase where we have the technology where every vote can literally be counted, and a lot of systems are there becoming, being revealed as a ridiculous. I can see where there's something missing and where it needs to be upgraded, and so I'm the new flavor. I mean, for example, why do we have social security numbers if they're not going to use that information to tabulate and make things safe? Really, security numbers only seem to serve the government when they're trying to, put a number on people. So they're not doing the numbers for the reason of advancing the country. So we have a bunch of low thinkers, people looking down, being like, that's just not the way we do it. We have a tradition here. And they go straight off, 16 years of the same bullshit. And so when I arrive before the flood and I say, I understand that there is a crisis in our democracy, I can perform in such a way to alleviate, and the Americans will discover that they are a hero, that there is a political future for them, that there's a candidate that excites them. Politics today is like a punishment, like, oh, you have to vote, and this huge condemnation. How do we get before the flood? Well, it's by producing Hatch in 2019. So, but in 2019, there was this fog in the mind of people being like, hey, you know, don't interfere with Bernie Sanders. This election is serious. And all these issues are serious, bro. And then, so you censored Hatch because you're trying to be like the status quo. But censoring a voice is never good, especially when it's before the flood and a green eyed wizard. Because green eyed wizards are, in a certain way, able to create a new timeline. And this is, of course, not something that we widely communicate as humans. The blue eyed angels and the brown eyed wizards of the invention of self. The brown is very lucid about like what it feels like and stuff. But I mean like they it's sort of like a specific creature that requires the right atmosphere to blossom and flourish into his full fruit bearing bonsai tree. If you're a real gardener, oh, we're not all gardeners, but we live in a garden. And so when you arrive to this place, the garden provides home and food. And so what humans want is that, oh, if you want food and a home, like you have to get this other thing, this other thing. Oh, it's this other thing, this money thing. Yeah, yeah, the electoral college. It's this other thing. Oh, we have free vote here. We have free speech. It doesn't matter what you think. Like, you're free to be your own individual here in America. That is specifically not what is practiced by the status quo. And so the problem of possession for both the brown eyes and the blue eyes is they have this hum-tiggly thing about they're possessed with this feeling of like, no, you can tell with Bernie Sanders, there's an intellectual thing going on. We need to respect this, the forum of this election. But now, so there was a mindset to understand why to censor the before the flood hero. Because producing Hatch in 2019 would have been very simple to do, um, not costing very much. Uh, so what is it to be before the flood now? That's what I'm getting at. I don't practice the wrong type of psychic power. I have more of a lifetime destiny psychic power. For example, I thought that Trey was going to make a Halloween special, and I was wrong. They weren't on board with making a Halloween special at all. But maybe it was time for me to take a time out with, making my videos and stuff. But I realized that I was wrong to say, to put this thing like the Halloween twins need to be on the Halloween special or else. I think I just needed to be alone for a while and like celebrate Halloween with my family. Let me tell you, Halloween was such a party. I had this a huge party because I got to open up the whole Halloween twins book and I spent the day customizing their soul stones and it really like oh, that feels better. These things like align and all this stuff sort of came into focus for me. Like there's this intense spiritual thing going on about being real and what we want to do with our family. How do we want our lotus to arrive to mankind? And it's South Park. I mean, like we've decided that we really want to work with Trey. So the Green Wolf robot toy, I mean, that would be developed later based on, another entire, the vortex of 2021 is going to be the cyclone of when would that Green Wolf robot toy be developed. But the real thing is to interact with that Green Wolf robot and have the story and have that relationship and have that experience and have that meditation and to do that on a special of South Park in in this in this season, right? That's before the flood. Okay, so we missed the before the flood, and now, oh, that the sort of possession of why the censor hatch has all of a sudden evaporated. Oh, now we're feeling a little silly. When we look at this election, we're like, holy shit, it's like the same problem as it was before. And it's like, which bomb do we defuse? The Democrats or the Republicans? Both of them are like these different types of a disaster. But which one, they have different ups and downs about like the monstrosity and the temptations and like how does the world want to view America? Do they want to view America as like, well, they have a businessman running it. They're just doing what they need to because of money, it's sort of what we do. We're like these weird people. Like, I mean, people have accepted money. I'm not saying that money is evil. And in fact, there's many different types of capitalism. And this capitalism that we have right now is very much a workforce. Like, oh, supply and demand. Like, what did civilization need? Supply and demand. And those people who are willing to work, they're the ones that earned a lot of money because they opened up restaurants and then they were renting and then boom, 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 they became this huge tycoon, with a big mansion or whatever. And that's supposed to be American, but I'm almost not seeing that happen. It's weird, it's spooky. But there's a system of the down. America's using up their karma, like proving that something like an electoral college wouldn't work. And it's just like it's like they're detached from their own relevancy and speaking in this weird way, talking about heavens that are in this weird thing. And I'm talking about we can actually stabilize the heavens and position ourselves for that opportunity whilst we live. Right? So this is a very advanced concept. So back in 2018, 2019, like what do we need to blitz? Like what would be a blitz in 2018, 19 to like basically salvage America without the need for like just basically making society fall. And then, oh, race wars. Oh, because that's what is boiling underneath, you know, America. Oh my gosh, it's such a bummer. But you know how I do. I bless things. I'm like, well, let's be productive. Let's be a blessing. I'm not a curse. I don't put things down. I'm just saying like for all the hard work that all the ethnicities have done on America, it's a shame that we're brought to this position, of social unrest. But what I'm saying is that literally that was the time of a hero when this green wolf running for president would have changed the atmosphere so drastically before the riots. So this is like just when it was like there's so many opportunities to produce the green wolf, and things just got worse and worse as censorship continued. It's like, oh, $5,000 is too much to allow this free speech to happen. So, at the climax, at a turning point in Trey's life, he chose censorship, and things have just gotten worse for America. And people don't want to equate that because they don't want Trey to be powerful. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. They think they're defending Trey, but they're actually putting their foot in their own mouth because they've been a goddamn for the past fucking 16 years. When something special happens for someone like Trey Parker, this is an example of how people don't understand how to behave. And when their unfortunate side rises up and comes to the surface and becomes the dominant identity of their person, and they become, in fact, the extinction of the American society, right? So that's actually literally what happened. But are these children to blame? No, of course not. But God continues to rise up and the poor get poorer. So these people are losing their opportunity. Greater than the Friday Kids, early warning sign. Hatch, early warning sign. The status quo, censored, and everything got worse. And so the gift here is to take responsibility for things and say, I am involved with the earth, and I am important, and I am powerful. I can make this problem go away. I can cure this problem. But what you would need is a green-eyed wizard who can actually literally create a new timeline. But because of the system of the down, I'm haggard in a different way. And so I need a producer, right? But that would be society. That would be men working together as gentlemen. So that's what I'm seeking. Okay, but what would uh, so we've turned the page and now we're seeing the election day, and it's just spooky. I mean, is it hopeful? Are we excited? This is a weird feeling about this election. And I understood myself as like, I wasn't gonna go out there trying to get produced and be like, hey guys, like I'm actually doing like some a spiritual surgery here to preserve the soul of America, because I could sense the turmoil, the fallout of people, you know, not anyway, like as a rodeo clown being like, hey, I've got my own party, I'm expressing my American rights here, then people would maintain their sense of American esteem, and it would position me perfectly for 2024. I really just needed a foothold in this election to sort of, save the heart, save the child, and then you're the hero the next time it comes around. But with this style, it's like it's leaving me to a point where if I come out to America as a political figure in 2021, they're kind of like, oh, okay, and that is sort of like this new thing. It's hard to explain, but it's sort of like a little bit more difficult because I'm not really sure. I mean, like, I'm gonna have to see what happens, but I have a feeling that the situation, like, look, in a very intellectual way, in a very high level way, Trump is almost like an effigy of like the government needs to change. Like, these seasoned politicians are rotten, and they're just hollowed out. They're not provocative. They're not pushing the country. And what I understand is something completely different. So Trump comes along, he's rude and he's smashing and he's reprising. And what I'm saying is like in 2018, I sensed my opportunity to defeat a zombie. So I'm like, oh, like, so it's almost like for me to like fight against Trump would almost be inappropriate in a very enlightened way. Because I recognize Trump as like an effigy. Right? But the common language isn't like that. People are like, no, 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 Trump's so bad, put him away. Defeat Trump. So it was like very open and easy for me to become a political figure in 2019. But for example, in the future, it's the situation's different if it either candidate. So I mean, if it's Trump, it's not going to be an issue about defeating Trump's reelection. It's just going to be like, oh, who's the next jockey to take up the reins after Trump? And if it's Joe, like I really want to bless Joe's health so that we don't end up with a Camilla as president. Like I think I almost am concerned about that issue because she's not popular in California. She's known as like a real like she's like have insane laughter during interviews where people are like, why did you like destroy this infrastructure and all these people are displaced? And she starts laughing like it's just like, and like Joe would assassinate uh Sanders. Like Joe Biden would be like, oh, Bernie Sanders, like the numbers aren't there, you need to quit immediately. But all he's been doing is like cheering people on the whole time, like being like, for the people, now, 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 it is us, we have to do this, we have to do this, okay, I'm quitting. Like that was an assassination. And that was right at the beginning of the pandemic when Bernie Sanders was convinced to drop out because of the numbers. But you don't understand the climate of the pandemic and what an election like that looks like is his chance to reach the country on an intellectual level by making some films and talking to middle country, talking about like it's not a dangerous socialism. I just like the idea about everyone being like, let's take care of the poor thing, but also, well, that's the thing about Bernie is he wasn't like, oh, I'm a candidate for wealthy people. That's why I'm different. Is I'm like, let's just take care of both of these problems. The wealthy need more opportunities and the poor need to be sure to have home and food and medicine. And that's bold leadership. That's something that even Bernie Sanders can't achieve because yeah, he's playing that edge like, oh, I'm, working here. But it's so gross how he left the race. And then like Joe's next decision is to work with Camilla, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what if Joe had chosen to work with Hillary Clinton? That would have been amazing. Or if he chose to work with to defeat Trump, right? Or if he had chosen to bring Bernie Sanders back to be his partner, that would have worked also. But he chose like this one character who I'm like, oh, that person's actually sketchy, and they're not. Uh, So, I mean, there's telltale signs here, but the thing is, like in 2018, 2019, we had this feeling, we were like hypnotized, being like, oh, that wouldn't be appropriate to give a children's hero, being like, let's fight for the environment, brah. Like he's a huge wolf, and he's doing these sessions where he's breaking things and going, we have to defeat the electoral college. But then it changes to like, oh, there's this clockwork man, and he goes through this analysis where he's explaining why that system is antiquated. And the Constitution demands that we update, and we're not doing what our forefathers laid out for us. We're not upholding these things, and that's what's wrong. But you need a green-eyed wizard to perform leadership of behavior and then karma and then the results. Like you do, and then things happen around you. Like God is listening. We're in a weird like holy war crisis where not necessarily would good karma or God be able to function based on right behavior. So we're in like we're coming out of a twilight season, trays from obsolete technology of the 70s, right? So he's this good old, Christian boy who wants to sing musics about, loving Jesus. and maybe he's like a character of his own lampooning. Point is, like, I'm not um, absorbently psychic, but I am psychic about my destiny. So I didn't know that South Park wasn't making a Halloween special, where I was like, I'm drawing a line here because this is getting weird. But I was wrong because he's not even making that episode. So I think it was just like, there are rhythms I listen to anyway. And so I'm bridging into a time phase when men could actually do good things and then God would awaken from that and good karma would spiral out from that. And the Ware map had indicated Trey Parker to be the right one to do that. But this is the beginning of it. He'd be the first of what I'm talking about, this sort of different thing. And it's real and I can describe it, but it also is the decorative lace of us just being professional, just doing business, just being gentlemen, and providing interesting things for the public and putting forward intelligent leadership and doing things that we feel are important. That's when it feels good to do work. Is when you're like, this is tough, but it's worth it. Like, and it feels good after you do the work. So the Green Wolf robot, awakening this thing, cyberpunk, this couple of South Park. Um, I had to go this morning. I had to swallow my pride, and because I told myself like, you know, I said that I wasn't gonna do any more of these types of videos. So I'm saying like I'm doing something different now, but like I'm also like, I don't want to be like a freaking child about what about. Oh, I said that I wouldn't talk to Trey anymore. I don't think I said that. I said if you don't put my boys in the Halloween special, then I'm out of South Park, but there was no Halloween special, so I guess I'm not out of South Park. But my point was really that like I was never approaching Trey as a like this crazy fan or someone who like wanted to be on South Park. This is sort of a plan B for me. Okay, so how do you be before the flood in 2020 while this stupid election's happening? Well, with Trey producing Hatch and providing through South Park this narrative about the Green Wolf robot awakening and breaking out of his ties, screaming across the landscape, blasting through barriers, and having this sort of epiphany. Jumps over jumps over a cliffside, like those great cliffs in California right before the ocean, and he just all of a sudden it's silent as this giant green wolf robot is just sailing through the air. When he comes close to landing on that rocky shore of the ocean, boom! And he shoots like a bullet, Sonic style, across the ocean. The ocean's all shooting up like this. And he's using his psychic powers, and his deja vu is aligning a major colossus of an event, spiritual, technology, natural, all colliding in an orgasmic, brutal encounter of murder. And the Green Wolf robot causes the trash island to have a semblance of life. It comes to life. And the Green Wolf robot bites down on its neck, and he doesn't let go, and his body whips around, and it slashes open the trash island's neck. But that's as far as the program had been designed to complete, and the soul of the pollution had been murdered by that great episode of South Park. Everyone meditating on the edge of oh, whoa, oh. They're all watching, man. They're all getting lit. They're getting a fucking crown from heaven, right? Just from watching South Park. Their soul's getting enhanced because they're actually involved with this quantum physics that's making the declaration. We understand what these kids are saying, and we're working for an environmental solution. California's on fire. We need to do this episode. Or is that how do we be before the flood? Is different. And in a time of disconnect when different ethnicities don't understand that they have unique powers. So we're made to not understand it, and we're dysfunctional, and we're, oh, get along with it. The way to be before the flood politically was by producing Hatch and giving these kids a hero. Failing to do that, everything's gotten worse. And you can't deny that. But you don't need to specifically believe or confess that these things are connected, because in fact you are innocent as a child. But to be brave as a man is to hire, hatch, produce free speech. So that's the differential here. Whether you're willing to be a gentleman and do good business based on the fact of that things are really bad right now and we need a hero. So it's an opportunity. Okay, because I use the divine things. I'm not condemning or I'm not cursing. All right, the truth is known. So what I'm saying is like, um, and I am a different person now. Like I was, there were some videos in like a year ago where we could really feel the political soul of what Hatch was doing, and now I'm like a really, my destiny and my timeline is all changed, and I can feel it, but it's okay. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I went through like identity crisis but I'm used to it. Like, I eat identity crisis for breakfast. It's like not a big deal. But like, I was just like, and so now I'm struggling with big feelings about like, oh, I was correct. Like, I should already be, like, I was right to fight for political change during that early time. But everything was status quo. We were all burning oil. We were all glad to mock Greta on Christmas, which is weird. Rick and Morty, recently purchased by HBO, so they're doing well. Where the hell did Channel 1, Rick and Morty, wonderful, so funny, and just a very new voice. I have a new type of animation style that I'd like to introduce because I do see a future where entertainment can be custom made and built by a robot. Of course, there's the opportunity of people wanting to share in media, but I just see a different climate and environment, and this is actually something that we could invest in and even develop that technology and actually own an entire shifting of the entertainment industry itself, and it can happen through Collins Mill. I'm saying it's like this huge, huge transformation I'm seeing through 2021, 2022, 2023. All right, excuse me. It's exciting, interesting material, and it's like it's so provocative and advanced that I don't want to talk about it right now because I have it written down about how to arrange the computer so that it's more intuitive. We're stuck with people using a keyboard writing in C++. It's a tremendous interface. The interface should be much more, and it can be. But because of consumerism is doing a weird thing with its like it's pigeonholing technology into cheapest form possible, low expectation for the consumer. Like, oh, it can understand your commands, but it's this rinky-dink little chat bot in the form of Alexa. Like myself, I was doing online virtual reality uh, in the 90s uh, through online chat, um, Moo and Mush and Muds. These like online um, mazes where you go around exploring as a character and you talk with other people who are logged in. And that's actually how I learned to type on a keyboard was I was hanging out with other people and I had to figure out where all the keys were by memory. And beyond that, right next to that was the invention of chatbots. And so there's this huge online group of people experimenting with chatbots, and I was one of them. And I created an early form prototype of a chatbot soul that would live online. And but today they're like, hey, oh, it's the new Amazon Echo. And it's this little thing, and it can understand what the fuck you say. And it does shit. Like it'll play a little song or something. And it's just like, it's absolutely beneath us, right? Our technology is way up here. And the humans are like, oh, are we not supposed to be technologically advanced? Because is this the issue of the church? They need leadership. They need intelligent people like myself who curves that entire generational thing and says, oh no, these kids are worth way more than that. And the future belongs to them. That type of orientation is important. And what we have here is this thing like, oh, these old men are the importance. These old men are the ones who can do it. And they're limp, it's disgusting. The children are the ones with the command for, you know, changing capitalism, changing money is producing hatch. You produce hatch, you're doing something powerful that money doesn't canoodle you to do. This is provocative and advanced and heroic. You actually produce a hero with money, it's changing the soul of money, changing capitalism itself, changing all of history. So the way to be before the flood now is actually to go through with the special, the Green Wolf robot and my characters existing in South Park, talking with Trey Parker on a couple episodes, and rounding up the season with a couple new friends. Isn't that nice? Easy glide, consensual, passionate, for her pleasure, ribbed. Recently, the McRib is returned to the fast food junket. Well, let me just describe some things with the pictures, and I hope to not lose my audience, the energy. But I need to also believe that mankind has a soul or has the ability to sustain an idea over a length of time. Like Trey Parker, I mean, he's basically very much like me, an independent researcher who's like dedicated full time to the intensity of American society. Like, what's going on? He's like the social analyst. So I think that's why the Where Map chose him. But this is a very new thing for reality. The creation is brand new. The map born instructions from the earth. It's like destiny. But apparently, and what it required in 2018, it meant, I mean, all right, let's just look at these pictures for a minute. All right, so the thing about Master Source Industries, I mean, this is a recording studio, and this would be where, offices, lodging, and it's all thematic. So really, encouraging new professionals to manifest a wild personality. They'd have like their own workspace, uh, and a sort of lifestyle of privacy, but then they can travel down to the downtown center, the cafeteria. There's lots of like whiteboards where we're like, oh, here's a project, we're looking for help for this or whatever. And that type of community, whilst we have this beautiful river and it's like outdoor dining, barbecue is part of the kitchen area, but like a very, I mean, like it's just like there's so much room to explore, and we're gonna have some nice outdoor vignettes. I wanted to do um, some work over here, but the point is that I know that this is the right concise form for a recording studio, and is a whole story. It's a story about because I actually want to document the process of the startup, and when it's like this is what, so companies need this to happen, then they need this, and so I'm working with like professionals who have gone to tech school, or they're a lawyer, and they're like literally, or you need this and this and this. Okay, so then we document that whole process, and that's this huge education and an encouragement to American um, capitalism and business, etc. So it's a really passionate story to a very depressed America. So it's very good entertainment, talking about intellectual things, and it leads into a streaming service. So basically, a story about this wild man Hatch, and he's released into his own factory. Oh, I've got my own factory, you guys. It's my castle. I am home, brah. He's like running around there in this, urban exploration fetish, dilapidated brick old factory, being like, brah, I own this. People are getting lit, and it goes up and up, right? So it's a story about that. And so there you go. So here's the sword of justice, and this is the character, an 8 foot by 8 foot mural I painted in New York City when I was in my 20s. And, it has to, here's where, I'm talking about this image and the mysticism behind this connection of what caused the arm of Cape Cod. A circle around Leverett Pond is the only connection here. So it has to do with the Wizard of Massachusetts, Hatch, summoned here in the Leverett Circle. Um, but what I was trying to say with this is that it's a narrative path that is so roughly drawn that only I can understand it. But you see the sword here as being the torso, or the sword is the body of this character. You can imagine how, like 300 years in the past, because that's how Rockborn. It's hard to explain. Okay, but the language here, there's a problem in the neck, there's a 2 code here, then there's a 2 code here. Inverting that causes the Leverett Lake and the successful arrival of the gatekeeper on Met. So that's what I'm saying is like, with my own work, I caused that I could complete my own arrival on Earth. It's hard to explain. Anyway, but it's so rough. Like you can see how this image is like torn around the neck, which I understand. Also, the hand of warning. It also seems to be like holding some palms or like a sword. Like he's holding a sword, but it also sort of looks like he's pointing to his nose. He says, like, I know, please do not attack. But then it also looks like he's holding a sword. So it's a little bit like, what? So a sort of puzzle and the destiny of my soul. But I was literally like possessed by my guardian spirits to drive here and to discover these buildings here. This was supposed to be it. And then I scrolled out and I saw South Park and Beavis and Butthead and the waterborne animation physics uh, here and here. And how I was basically talking with like a father of American animation, Trey Parker, and having like a sort of destiny bout with him about he and I working together, and because he chose the path of censorship and inaction, total collapse to the society. So complete, but then this sort of thing, Collins Mill went up for sale because of the pandemic. And this is a green wolf, but you have to turn it like a key. Ding. It locks into place, and you see the perfect silhouette of a green wolf smiling. But the voice, the howl of the wolf is here at Collins Mill. And so the situation has changed where sort of I was the map. Okay, and so here's something interesting about how the notes reveals the differential in the orange code, and this is why the orange planet became the asteroid belt whilst Mars was being murdered. There's old pyramids on Mars, which are photographed. So there was life form on Mars, but there's also life on Venus. So because, or anyway, like this sort of cloud busting into the map causes a sort of recognition of the events of the year 2019. And it doesn't cause that censorship would be predetermined. That was a free will choice of Trey Parker. So, maybe it's destiny saying like, well, because Trey chose blasphemy of censorship, he entrapped me and stole my money, endangered, this and knocked out all my energy, right? But who cares? Those were the fags of 2019. And the reason why Earth had to drop society was because there was a rotten flesh problem, right? And it was with the communication industry, and it was with our own government, but it's also with other countries. Okay, so there's like this really tepid situation. Collins Mill is the icon of a factory and a school, a location for a revolution. So Hatch represents a revolution for the youth. And so, you guys wanting to censor that is bad. So the penalty is that you need to make a cartoon and work with Hatch and have a Green Wolf robot in your cartoon. And that compromises your normal workflow. It's a new type of collaboration, and it's the way to blitz 2020. This is the new before the flood solution. And I'm the only one saying it. I'm not saying that you guys agree with me or that I'm speaking about something that is popular or widespread. No one knows about this. And yet you guys chastise me because you're like, I can hear in your voice that you're the only person who knows about this and who thinks that way. Therefore, censorship. That's why you're a fuck all, you fucking censorship faggot. Don't talk to him. That would endanger us with the legalism. So you're saying that if this situation of you inviting Hatch to California, if that went to court, you would deny that you invited him on Twitter? Is that how your legalist spirit protects you? So the pandemic, is that the legalist spirit? 20, 100,000 people dead. Is that the legalist spirit protecting you? Oh, so I see. So let's not give him a refund. Let's not work with this man. Let's have silence, inaction, and censorship. You guys didn't even have enough fucking cum in you to make a Halloween special. You're fucking lazy. You're not excited about Halloween? Phew, you guys aren't even excited about Christmas. You guys aren't. How are you guys an American pillar? This material and the fact that it's not, hugely widespread talked about is an indication of how drastically the market is about to change and how we can spearhead that change if we talk to children with heroes. But you guys keep on attacking the children and complaining in your pandemic, acting a victim. I only want it to go back to the way it was before. That's an anti-father, an anti-Christ. You're not excited about what the kids are doing. You're not supportive. and you're censoring political voices that are against the douche in a turd sandwich. And yet you find comfort in that. You find humor in the fact that you have broadsided the intellect of America and brought about another douche versus turd sandwich. So it's a familiar old song. Oh, I love it when I feel that way. But you're also hurting other people's feelings. Well, that's why. Oh, I like that. I'm that type of South Park that curses people. What about a South Park that is hopeful and bright, and it has cyberpunk revolution in it, and it has a Green Wolf robot that it kills the environmental crisis, and it has a Alicorn Stallion robot prototype that is funny and has a funny walk cycle, and it talks funny, and there's this part where it runs away with Eric Cartman. That whole part. I just feel like, I'm the only, I need to stand up for myself because I'm the only one who speaks this way. So I'm the beginning of something. So censoring that is, uh, uh, is the way to bad touch all the other people. So Eric Cartman runs away with this unicorn robot. It's like Trey is like, he thinks it's manly to not allow his own children to have a friend. Stan, you can't have a friend. The Vampire King. Eric Cartman, you stop playing with that unicorn robot. I'm gonna take that away. Is that the heart of Trey Parker? Let's get rich on a censorship. We're gonna support that streaming service at HBO because we're a football, so we're not gonna help that new streaming service, Patch, because we already got paid. So this guy's startup of a new streaming service, it costs like maybe $3 million. And my energy, I know how I people will get excited by my energy, but they won't use my energy correctly, and then they will end up blaming me for my introduction. Like you excited me, and and then I went and I did a bunch of things with that energy. But that energy was meant for you to work with me, not for you to take the spunk that I gave you and then you use that to announce to everyone, "Oh, I'm back. I'm going to be making a big silver screen movie." And I'm completely the author of that energy. I'm the original. You went out, Trey, you went out and lied to everyone and you censored my voice and everything got worse. And you're not able to are you're not able to take the opportunity of a gentleman. Oh, I'm in my 50s. Now I can actually do real work. You're such an asshole that you don't think there is real work. You need to be a little bit more spiritual and understand that you have an opportunity here and you're and you can afford it and it's what's called for. So the physics is different with Hatch. This is also a problem where we're not identifying with the specific needs of every ethnicity, and you'd be treating other ethnicities like blue-eyed people, and it's a molestation, and you don't understand that. And I'm here talking about the cure, how they have, so brown eyes have their own power, and you need to respect that, but you're not doing it. Green eyes have their own power, and here it is, but you censored it. Oh, I see. So Hatch is introducing a new set of rules. He's saying like the children matter, different colors conduct energy in different ways, different shapes, conduct energy in different ways. These are the new rules that are unexpected by Mr. 70s man. So, a new burst of light and love introduced to South Park. See, that is what is truly challenging to the arthritic grip of the Antichrist that throttles your brain and murders your sons. I'm just throwing away a perfect son here, Trey. Nothing, not, it's, oh, I'm not personally affected by that. Well, I certainly am, and the world collapsed. But you're not going to take responsibility for that. You're alive. There's something so awesome and good here, but it requires a different formula. Whereas, producing me in 2019 would be like 5K. Now it means like compromising your artistic ideals by introducing another author, where I would have to write lines and be introducing arenas and say, like, okay, so here's a space where, Trey's characters can say a joke, but this and this needs to be in place so that um, the rhythm of the drama of the Green Wolf when it defeats the Trash Island and then it sinks to the bottom of the ocean. And that whole drama is like powerful enough to bring tears, but we need to do certain things to allow that to happen. And if people are engaged with it like emotionally, then the magic has taken place, and it's the best way to actually change the environmental crisis and respond to Greta and the Friday Kids and understand and let them know constructively that we've heard them and we're responding to them, as compared to a Christmas where you censored the light and the child and attacked and everything got worse. So here's a chance, like working with Hatch was a chance for South Park to prove that they're an intellectual pillar and say, yeah, we're always like really smart. But this whole turn, and right when you sell out, so like $500 million, and then you're laughing and attacking Greta on Christmas, and everyone's saying, Trey, you're an absolute professional. You're an amazing person. You did the right thing censoring that naughty hatch wolf running for president. And then just everything shut down. And you come out in the pandemic special, oh, I just want everything to go back the way it was. It's like you're not involved in making your artwork be intelligent. And you're just like, oh, I'm just a victim, allowing the persuasion of reality. And it's very 70s Blue-Eyed Angel, being like, oh, it's the Holy War, but you don't understand that we're actually engaged with something where you can actually be the solution. But inaction, silence, censorship, no communication, inappropriate behavior, that's not the way to get there. I'm not lecturing you. I'm trying to explain to you your opportunity, which is also the opportunity for billions of children. Oh, what? Importance? This is the new English of America, where I'm demanding the Electoral College be defeated by a cell phone app that allows all votes to count. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, and I'm eager to get to work, and all I've been receiving is this bullshit, heel dragging censorship. It's obviously a money making venture. And these gentlemen find a persuasion, the excuse. I'm sorry, like I am actually recovering from RPW. Like there I was really, really in love with a certain Destiny line and I could feel it. Basically, that's what the holy war does is it allows angels to reveal themselves, and then it pulls out their wings and murders them because it's trying to convince us to go towards Armageddon or the collapse of the world. But the earth was like, oh, instead of collapsing the world, let's just like go low, let's just shut down the lights a little bit, pump on the brakes. And here we are, we're limping through it in 2020. So like I'm not actually angry at South Park. I'm just like, but like no one gets it. They're like, but sort of like, being passionate is part of the communication. So I'm not actually angry, but I'm like, there's parts of me that are like so upset about how all these children would die. Like there's a whole character set of a generation, um, and I have to think about like the generation beneath the children below, um, Greta and the Friday Kids. I don't know. They will be the generation to understand. I don't know. I see in like the fourth dimension of like things that didn't happen and stuff like that. It's weird. So the identity is being mistreated. Mm. And I've done my work in my life to do the lone wolf thing where I'm defending my own superposition. And that's how I parent another is like I create my own armor and then I'm an infamous character that provides intuition, maneuvers, psychic loops that allow people to have premonition and defeat the worst thing. So developing from ground zero the instincts of the human condition. Provide. I'm working for water. I'm working for the reality that the child is new inside of their body. Like that's my bag. My enemy is the system of the down and a false cultural norm, which is caused by humbug. An issue. There's a problem, a congestion with UFOs. Church was supposed to solve that, and the collapse, the deadlights rose. So for me, the sequence of images on the small map of Massachusetts is very significant. I'm not saying that it means something to you guys, because I can tell that it's almost written in my language. Like I'm like, oh, I'm the only one who would appreciate these map languages. It's written all the way at the top of the ziggurat about like the destiny of man is right here, and I'm like, oh, geez, Louise, like I've got to, I've got to be the five-dimensional wizard and be alive to it and perform the spirits of transformation. But I'm lucid about what I'm doing. That's why I'm a different type of entertainer. I'm not actually, I'm actually more of a parental figure. I'm like raising angels. So I'm like, your identity is your wealth. And so we can customize. Let's open that up and do this thing. I thought like I'd have a TV show or a video game, a virtual reality where you go in and interact with like these really crazy wizards, and they even give you opportunities like to sell a fraction of your soul. So like really fucked up shit. Like oh, you get into a dungeon and like at the worst level of the thing where you're basically in this. Crazy situation with like this intense wizard and you've like manifested like powers through customizing and you've got your character and you've gotten like this chance at the end of the game to literally like uh cleave off like a fraction of your soul and sell it to the video game, and it's for the promise of like imbuing your powers and making it bigger and stuff. And that would be so fucking cool. Oh fuck yeah, I want to like I'll sell it, fracture off a piece of my soul to this moment of my life. Like I want to have give people this intensity where they can see some shit. Of course, it's totally powerful and productive and real and good for the gamer. It's not the sort of um, unexpected results thing. It's more of like how to give people. I mean, I see people wanting to spend their time in it. They're like, oh, where's it at? Can I? What can I grow? Where can I do stuff? Like the system of the down whittles things down. The language is very prohibitive and very narrow about this is what it is. You guys are consumers. It's not going to change. You need to vote. It's your fault if you guys don't vote. electoral college is rigged, uh, and it's a farmhouse style voting. It was obsolete probably 10 years ago. 10 years, well, that's not too long ago. We are, yeah, I mean, this is all like really modern and like current event stuff. But just, for Hatch to be a warrior who's talking about eliminating the electoral college is like totally relevant. This is how to get to the point of things. Like, I don't know if like maybe Trey is more comfortable with a meditation with me where I get angry, or he thinks that like that's sort of his comedy thing. He gets a little angry and then he shows you something and he's like, oh, that's why. And like, it's whatever. I'm not an angry person. Like, what are you looking for my wounded heart where like I was literally your son? Is that what you're looking for? And, I don't want to show that part of me. I'm working hard to be Hatch and transform my soul, and I have to like pull up. And I understand the power of oneself. I can do it. I can actually change the country for the better. I can actually save this whole thing. And I am. I'm doing that. That's my job. Right? But I'm encountering other men who are not that way. They're not heroic. They're not about children. They're not about money. They're not about the country. Okay? They're about the sort of easy jive. Just like an easy cruise. Oh, legalized prostitution, yeah. What does it matter for my kid? A very detached individual, this consumer fag. I'm challenging for a new thing to happen in South Park, and it's making your balls shrivel for cowardice, to prove what? Every level of my career in life, I've been doing things that are powerful, provocative, and in depth, such as building my own virtual reality world, which is actually a functional engine that is rendering the true nature of virtual reality itself. And so I'm building a source code deck so that to prepare for my next phase of actually making virtual reality games, people having this sort of like, oh my gosh, a real encounter, Because I see even an additional thing behind that robot trainers, people programming computers from inside virtual reality, which allows us to do microscopic programming, subatomic code can be performed inside of virtual reality, but you need the right super deck that allows that type of reality to happen, which is why I'm creating my own collider of what is virtual reality, what can it do physically. Okay, because you need those lines, those vector lines are actually like a microscope where you can actually do very sharp things. And so I'm figuring out how to change the world using technology. And I see how, the fall of 2020 is also meaning that America doesn't have the muscles to be excited about super cities. And so that's something I need to reinflate by talking to Japan and London and substantiate a dialogue, a narrative tree, which becomes a show that's on my streaming service where it's all about robot trainers, but a lot of things that I'm offering. But people like, I'll have like, a storefront in Japan and London, and people would be attracted there because there's like a live screen of people talking about technicianing a robot. Now, these parts seem important. The diode lights up here, but the cognitive form of, you know, uh, using the cameras to do facial recognition, basic cognitive things about the robot seeing things needs to be uh, funneled in a certain way that the brain of the AI is flexibly analyzing what it's seeing. Okay, so the camera feed can't just go into a simple chatbot data bank and then produce a character that appears to be talking based on what it's seeing. Okay, it needs to actually have the chance, which means you'll have a robot which would start like this. You turn it on and go and it's like just it's not working. That's like that's the process of building robots. Is you're gonna start with things that are like they're not responding right or something, and there's this whole thing about you have to build a robot. But I need to talk to people in Tokyo who have an appetite because they're like kind of looking for the new bar. They're in this sort of twilight of cyberpunk where they're like, oh, this cool new restaurant, this huge arcade, in Tokyo or whatever. They like to live there. I need to address those people and entreat them and say like these, I'm treating you like an intellectual. I'm talking about these issues. This is the problem with that design, right? So, and then actually having like a little studio in Japan where they're taking queries and people are designing robots, and we have a factory in America where we're printing these prototype pieces, testing them out, talking about it. Not it's like a process, but there'd be like some really, there'd be a fanglory where people are like, oh, like they just start going back to that store every day because they're like, oh, they live there, and so then we have, like basic, they have tea and they have some food and maybe even a place where you're allowed to like pass out on a couch or something. There's like a lounge or just like this really kind of cool master source industries and this amusement and people are like what? And then they're involved. But anyway, that narrative between Japanese and London becomes a fascination for America, and it whettens their appetite to understand that to have a president who is promising robots and super cities, that would be great, but they don't, we've been attacked, we've been assaulted by this pandemic, we've been assaulted by the system of the down to the point that's so depressing, you understand? So they need a warrior and they need to be perked up. So you need a stallion to do that. That's what Hatch does. And I understand about money. I mean, crowdfunding, people support things they care about. We need to give them those opportunities to support heroes, and I'll have like characters who are streaming and talking about what it's like, life in master source industries. So it's a very steady incline. So it's like I'd be at work doing my thing, and I'll earn and I'll go into green within a year. That's unheard of for a startup in 2020. This is communication, right? But I'd like it to begin in South Park, the Lotus of the Green Wolf robot. Talking about the narrative of going inside the virtual reality and creating the actual program, which is like an idea, but it's also like a relationship. So it's actually the relationship between myself and Eric Cartman that equates the solution to the world, that awakens the Green Wolf robot and defeats the climate crisis. It was the Wear map that caused me to get really excited about trade, but I really do love Eric Cartman and you guys. You've always been there for me as I was growing up. South Park and The Simpsons, this is like really comfortable for me. And I was just so pleased that, the Earth was like, you know, doing a maneuver with his, he's a stone clockwork. The Earth is on clockwork. Okay, so he's like, it's the best sort of thing where he's saying, Hatch, I need you to be that wizard, but here's your first, like, I want you to do this instead of just a startup where you just make games. I want you to work with this wizard Trey. It's like, okay, I'll do that. Earth, I'm so excited you're talking to me, is what I did. And I understood the language of the map. It's on the wiener. Oh, okay. A sort of man issue. Mhm. Right. So, and the formula is like that. And so Earth was like, oh, sorry, guys. I needed to prevent the Armageddon because I'm on clockwork. So it's actually not your fault that that the problem happened, right? But there's karma here, and the impression of falling society is not great. So it's sort of like Trey's like, oh, I'm facing a lot of sort of anxiety in my mind. That's because you're encountering reality. and your friends will want to medicate you or tell you that you're crazy. And it's certainly not because of Eric Cartman, because he's Bugs Bunny or he's Mickey Mouse. Where's your amusement park? I'm seeing there's problems in the South Park franchise. A lackability, the confidence is shot. You guys think that you are insult, but you actually were an intellectual genius the whole time because of Trey. So the argument in South Park is that it's about a fate, about whether you're an intellectual hero or if you're just this kind of corporate nag and an example of yourself, really. Go Broncos. Like, who the hell cares about football right now? What do you, it's like the most ridiculous thing. As if that's maintaining the status quo. But what you need to do is embrace the future and give these kids a hero. That's intelligent and modern. The inspirational formula is so delicious between Hatch and Randy. I see competition between these two characters that plays out inside of a weird virtual reality arena. These like where they develop these dragons and they're having a battle because they're these powerful men, right? And Randy has his way of it. He's just fucking things up with, and blowing up South Park and doing all this crazy stuff. You know, Randy is a real uh, alpha, right? But he's alone. You can tell he's alone in South Park. He doesn't have a peer. So to challenge that character with another stallion, uh, apex predator, alpha hatch, right? Very good formula for stories and comedy, and a formula also for America. I mean, my streaming service goes on to be a wonderful resource for people. But yeah, in the story in South Park, Hatch is this guy trying to open up his own streaming service, and he has some altercations with Randy Marsh, and but the Halloween twins, they had a wonderful birthday. I have to tell you, completely exhausted from the party. Oh my God. And this is like so many updates. So I've had my own personal like epiphany this Halloween. I'm grateful. And I think I understand what Earth is saying because I was like, I thought you guys were, I was wrong. You guys weren't making a Halloween special with or without me, right? So also that's kind of weird. I'm just like, you guys aren't excited about the holidays? It's weird. Like you're doing this just as a job and, you know, like, you know. So, Hatch really is a new friend for Trey and a new dynamic for America. But, it's like a confusion because the wear map was like too divine of an intervention and startled the horse and then this happened and then this, but it's like, oh, okay, wait, wait. All right, we just had our asses kicked. So we have a choice of taking an opportunity as a gentleman and intellectual or just doing the same old shit and censoring Hatch and dragging along. And that forever being your karma, something that you'll regret forever. Uh, but that's only, that's a factual hearsay, which you can. Yeah, I'm not asking for your faith. I don't work with curses. um, Millie the Outlaw is a beautiful light to South Park. Maybe she could become an unlikely friend to someone. I mean, I'd love it to be for it to be Sharon. Because then we can cloister, we can focus more on a story dynamic between Hatch and Randy and Sharon and Millie. I don't know, like they hit it off, like they had something like that they're really into, and like Millie's explaining something about the program, and and have you seen those like cobweb shooters for Halloween decoration? You just and you're just blasting the stuff that causes these webbings. It catches and it creates what looks like old cobwebs. But it's like a cobweb duster. It's like and you just blow it and it makes this Halloween decoration. It blows cobwebs all over things, right? And so Millie, the outlaw, is like she's like talking really fast in her own way, and and then she's like Sharon, but Sharon like gets it suddenly. And she's like, oh, I see, you made your own pattern, and then you're putting it through like a duster thing, and you're just blasting code instead of doing it by hand. So instead, like one thread, so she's like virtual reality blasting her pattern code in strands of completed C++ instead of like going through and like writing these meager little codecs in JavaScript. Instead, she has like this programming canon where she's just blasting, completed formulas, and it creates like a grid or like a hot cluster, like a brain, like a knot of things, and it actually does work as a computer program because it has many different ways that it could channel this to that. What we have now, our processors are saying is it can only process the information one way, and it's this sort of thing where we're being conditioned. It's by the computer, but it should be the other way around. But it's like Sharon's like, oh, so you made your own. It's almost like women talking about quilting or knitting. She's like, oh, so you printed out your own pattern and you're uh, in, trying to work with the. Your, so there's like a robot with its lights out, like, and it's like not working. And so she's designing this pattern and sort of spicing up this thing. And then she's got this cannon. She's just laughing and just like blasting this sort of code everywhere, and it's and then suddenly the robot goes and it like understands and it starts doing things. It's like to give the spirit to America through South Park is perfect, and it's a total ascension for Trey as a professional. I think it's very good, and I'm seeing that. And this whole debacle might be what the Where Map was predicting with the two-sided South Park. Like Trey has a choice to make about does South Park go in cybernet or not, because it would become the source of intellectual basin of a new computer interface, human-made computer interface, but totally Americana, okay, because it's animated. It's an early form of technology, so you know, cartoon South Park is an early form of technology. We're working with that, and we're working with that. That's the right foundation for America to have its own technology. So have this story basin in South Park is actually advanced politics of garden physics and how humans can become resilient against UFO tampering and remote access. Also, defeating the future of their exasperated efforts. They've run the course of scientific rigmarole, but they're going to attack our kids, like, or our grandkids. And we got to say, as men of 2020, say, fuck no. I don't want the world to end. I don't want the Armageddon. I don't want UFO to invade what we're doing and what we're saying. I care about what we've been talking about and who we are as a people. That's Trey Parker, right? So that's how you defeat the bad things. So I'm saying it's like this collapse of society in 2020 is just a sniffle. Or to say, hey, don't worry, I'm just trying to prevent the worst thing. So we're not too late. This is plan B, but to be before the flood and to truly perform the blitz of what our society needs is for Trey Parker to hire Hatch and to perform a sequence of stories where Hatch is partial author to what's going on there, and making voices and stuff and hanging out with Trey. So it's basically be friends, be a gentleman, and save the world. That's what God is saying. And, I get the flack because I'm the only one who talks this language. Talk about before the flood, you need a green eyed wizard to understand the course of time. Is that the physics of the blue eyed angel is different? So Trey is actually a blue-eyed angel who would listen to Hatch and be parental. So that's the right angel form. And so I'm hoping that he sees reason now, since Earth said, "Oh, that where am I? Yeah, that was serious. See, look, I just had to drop this whole thing because of that." And it's like it involves us, but it's not exactly your fault, Trey. Right? So your anxiety is not because of that. It's because you're missing your opportunity and cheating Eric Cartman of his opportunity. The way I see Eric is so different. I mean, obviously, but I heard you talking about the episode where about about Eric's character developing for the fans and stuff, and I was like, God, I see Eric as an actual icon that has his own things like Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse, but South Park doesn't have their own amusement park. So I know that I'm supposed to work with Trey because I'm supposed to award him intellectually. Yes, South Park is intellectual, and then boom, he gets his own amusement park, and then boom, boom, boom. As Trey is working with me through my company and making films and stuff on my streaming service, we're talking about new frontiers of the communication industry and even industries of robotics, and other new frontiers that which will please Trey intellectually as he's growing older. Just it's like the fullness of Trey's portfolio, a lifetime achievement. I want to be an opportunity for you, Trey, and I want to be a partner to you. But right now, I need you to be the financial backer, and I need you to understand that I have something important to say to America. And you allow that to happen, you're going to increase the karma of South Park and will sever all negative ties, and South Park will completely recover as its own dimension and enzyme. You know, I'm here to stabilize the South Park with my relationship. Okay, so my character relationship with Randy Marsh and these characters, it's not about me changing South Park. It's about me knowing about what I know about my, good fresh side of it, and then Trey's fresh side of it. I plug in this like a, extra subdermal, thing. Trey's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I already knew that. Like I was against Scientology the whole time. Yeah, yeah. That all that intellectual stuff. Yeah, common sense. But you've seen how the common sense of South Park is not what's been practiced in America for the past 10 years. Things have been getting weird, right? And now we're seeing the physical head of it, like Earth is actually talking to us. So we need to respond by making our cartoon empathetically and work with Hatch. But we can do this remote. So we just need, Hatch can work from his apartment with his computer setup through Zoom. And we can do this thing, man, and just make a really good episode of South Park, like boom, boom, boom. I would like to challenge you, Trey. Think about you know, how bad would it be to do more hour-long specials? Yeah. I know that you're like, well, let's get back, you're eager to get back to that half hour, but might I tempt you to push your people and say, like, how would you guys feel about like, doing a little bit more, like, can you fit it into your schedule? They're like, oh, we're not doing anything else. It's fucking quarantine, right? So maybe, I encourage you that I mean, just be like, oh, well, new day. So we'd like to do some more hour-long specials and just sort of take over the country with this new brand of line of thinking. It's inspirational I mean, all the people sort of watch it and be like, oh, wow, a new job front. Like I could get a job like working in VR. Like that's what it equates to down the road. So I mean, it was like in 2019, like 5K would have put me into a position. Now I'd have the networking. I'd have all the people calling me up, being like, "Look, we know that this and that. Like, we're sorry you didn't get on the ballot. You're not on the electoral college voting thing, but we believe in what you're doing, and we'd like to." And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, like calling, doing this thing." But I'm just like dead in the water without you now, Trey. I don't know. It's just like this. All too specific thing, the wear map. Very specific about, no, I don't need the fuel type of some sort of, the physics type of American culture solving its problems using its own artwork is the brighter future. Okay. So that's it. Thank you, Trey. So please hire me for this season of South Park. And like I apologize. But like I know the human condition. The human condition is so bad that sometimes we have a insane response. And like when we're really happy about something, but we feel sad, or like we're really upset about something, but we experience pleasure or happiness. Like I experienced it. Like when I posted this video, when I was saying like, oh, this is my last video to Trey, and it was because this is something different, right? When I did that, I was laying in bed and I could feel like a sort of human reward system. And I was just like, oh, this is the most disgusting pleasure. Like, I hate everything. Like, I'm just writhing in my body. Like, how do I get out of this thing? You know? So I don't want, oh, yum, yum, yum. Oh, it tastes so good. Like, I don't like being placated by my body. A false relief in this idea about me, like, oh, I've dropped my entire embargo. I started seeing bad signs, and it turned out they didn't have a Halloween special. I was like, oh, I was wrong. And then I was like, but I saw bad signs about like, oh, if you don't do your Lotus through South Park, it's fucked. I'm like, shit, what the fuck? But I just needed to take a break from the whole meditation and just have my own Halloween party, which I did, and I'm grateful for that. And it was good. I can't tell you how much I want to work with Trey. Like, it'd basically be like the first friend that I ever had. So it's pretty intense here with Hatch. I've got a knuckle sandwich with Randy's name on it. I'm so pissed. Grudge match. Epic showdown. Hatch and Randy. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to have a form. I have a new animation style. Imagine if we do everything. Let's just imagine if we do everything in virtual reality, like this sort of thing, and then we segment the frames, and then we have it print out, and we go onto online. We say, oh, well, like if you print out like a frame and trace it, we'll give you like $5 or something, like right. And then then we have like pencil drawn because people are outlining. They're just tracing the animation done by CGI. Basically, like in a week, millions of people who are like, oh, I'll do a tracing for $5. I want to be part of this anyway. And Trey Parker's one of the voices in it, right? And then we use a computer to like colorize it or something like that. But there you go, boom, you got like a hand drawn animated cartoon with like beautiful animation. We could do it like Akira with like a high percentage of frame rate, right? So like really high quality, really high quality animation, hand drawn by Americans. Maybe like I've run the gamut in my mind. I've like raised the price, but like, what if we ask them to colorize their pictures and do it for like $10? Or what if it's just like $1 and we ask them just to trace it? It's just every like budget and what we want it to look like, and we want it to look good so that everyone's like, oh, look what we made together, so they're excited about it. So that's why I went back to like, well, what hand drawn pencil drawings, and then colorize it so that with a computer with a different composite. So we'd almost take it's hard to say like how you take like the color information from the CGI, and then you'd reduce the polygons and almost bring it to like a stained glass window effect where the shatterings of colors like kind of flip, but also then taking consideration the lines of that are done with the pencil. So it's a new animation type that considerably like you perform this thing. It's really funny. We put some music in it. Oh, we're still working on the music, but let's go ahead and introduce the animation side to people, and people like take a little commission and they're part of it, and it's awesome. What an epic film. And that would take like the workload for us would be like 2 or 3 weeks while we're doing other stuff. Like, you know, and it's amazing turnaround and involved with, everyone. So, but I have other additional animation styles I'd like to experiment with because I have like this, um, yeah, a different like source code meta philosophy about everything about it. Um, Thank you so much, Trey. Like I'm really looking forward to being your friend in the future and making stuff. Um, I'm absolutely not angry at you, Trey. Not at all. I've never been angry at you. We're basically strangers. Okay, and I saw this wear map, and I'm like, oh dang, Trey's the chosen one. So I was just telling you the truth about it. And but the way that my life had been going, like I was looking for a new name, literally, and Millie didn't have a name. We were all dedicated to just me being a person like, oh, let's just do this thing. So for me to change, like become the superhero, it was just like way too intense, and the social structure couldn't handle it. So, but it was a huge like dropout for me, and then everything just got worse. And like, oh, am I supposed to be happy about bad signs? Is awful. I get distorted against myself, being like, look at the evidence of this corpse of an angel. But it's not that I was happy about it. But it's also not your fault, but also you guys aren't educated enough to take responsibility for what the fuck Earth is telling you because you have illiteracy and you're conditioned by, you know, these pseudo traditions left to us by the church. Be content with your football and your consumerism. You have a job to do, Such bullshit. What an impressive and false promise and stuff. Rely on yourself. Um, I'm responsible to the information that Earth is telling, and I'm correct. And the kids deserve better. I would be giving them their own generated, so they would generate their own armor and resilience. And so when I meditate with them, they're actually performing the action of defeating the climate crisis. Same thing with the Green Wolf robot toy working in South Park, right? Because I'm not some sort of consumer censorist, you know. There is a way, the universe and everything, the creation model is created for this miraculum of an individual. And so while it sounds like my descriptions of green energy and the interpretation of burning oil is all too convenient, well, isn't everything all too convenient, you little illiterate piece of shit? You don't understand what Greta and the Friday Kids are saying. You're irrelevant to the societal commentary, which is guttural to the nature of an intelligent South Park. So you perform self-betrayal in 2019. Oh, that's a very convenient interpretation of the signs, Hatch. You dumbass. If you go into the unquantifiable realms, there's an infinite realm of sense and order to things. And so I'm reading language written in the map, and it's very specific and very real. It's a warning sign, and it had instructions. But people would say that my interpretation was too convenient, or I'm just making things up with pictures that I found. It's because they have that inconvenient human condition and an appetite for the crowd funding crack pipe. I can feel the people do not want this intelligent armor. Let's censor his voice. But that wasn't actually the soul of Trey Parker or the self. So, the America needs intelligent leadership, and what they're receiving is a type of suckers with a plastic tongue, or the censorship. America needs heroes. America needs leaders. So that's what we need to produce and make money that way. Trey's the kind of guy who he's like, hey, I've been saving up a little bit of money I meant to give to you. But one way or the other, the system of the down is going to prevent Trey from giving that money because that's the fold that he's involved with, the censorship, preventing South Park characters from having a friend and censoring the children, censor this and make money all the while, proving the corporate fist. Is this a destiny thing that's going on over there? It's just like, I don't take it seriously. Oh, good. So now you have a lot of money and you're not worried about money. That's great, Trey. Good for you with your HBO streaming service. But I'm talking about making my own streaming service. I was talking about making a South Park theme park. And that's exciting. And it would, if I start my own streaming service, it means that Trey can make any type of movie he wants into the future to continue to be relevant to this situation, to parent this child, not attack them on Christmas. So the signs are, it's pretty weird, but it was saying is that Trey and Hatch are supposed to work together on this season of South Park. And if not, things just get worse. But that's not a curse. I'm just saying that's the logical interpretation. It's about pulling off that maneuver in a lucid dream. It's about getting to the top of the game and then doing the perfect maneuver. That's what Trey Parker is capable of doing now in his 50s. He's like, oh, I've reached that place that I was trying to reach in my career basin. Now's the time for you to do the miraculous maneuver of hiring Hatch to make this series of episodes about the Green Wolf Robot awakening. And that would transcend the censorship of the down. So that's the forbidden fruit of money. For us to wield our society to mastery of Earth's actual function is to defeat Junk DNA and defeat the aliens. And that's what the system of the down does not want. You have to source the strength to do this thing on your own, Trey. So from your own identity, fathom the nature to be great and produce Hatch. I'm freaking excited to work on South Park. I'm really in love with it. And it's the best thing for me because I'm not actually the whole sort of incline of like flirting around with people on a oh, it's my own cartoon. Look at these sexy characters. It's actually not what I'm interested in. I'm a different type of scientist, a different type of professional. The best thing that I want is to be on South Park. And that's true love. That's my truth. Thank you so much, Trey. Thank you for spending this time with me. I apologize for my rudeness in the past. I apologize for being rude. I'm not actually a angry performer. I don't know. It's just like I have like there's a deep place in me that was personally affected by this, but it's not your fault, Trey. It's my fault. It's the Earth's fault. It's the universe. You know, let's do this the right way. You know, um, so I do apologize for my mean things that I said about California. I said you guys were a bunch of fags in 2019. I'm sorry. And I really want to have a friendship with Eric Cartman and Randy Marsh. I see them as the real heroes who spoke in ways that changed people's actual life, unlike, you know, other characters. There's some real resilient qualities in these characters in South Park. And I want to promote that. I want that to be Americana. Walt Disney's having a hard time. The infrastructure, they've had a scandal. Very large, stupid people with too much power making ridiculous cartoons based on their own fantasy. And then it turns out that they're some sort of criminal. You'd have to do some digging to find that story because it's been oppressed in the media. Weird karmic spiral for the body of Walt Disney. And similar to Bugs Bunny, who has the familiar trait to Trey Parker of the voice actor, Mel Blanc. I'm a huge Mel Blanc fan, but sort of, really what was Looney Tunes doing and what is their effect? Like, I see South Park as having this new level of like going into cyberpunk and them getting their own amusement park. Oh, we are an intellectual pillar. We're all the way to the top of the ziggurat. We're serving God, you guys. And meet my new friend Hatch. He's crazy. He's a wild man. He's gonna change his name. He wants to be my son. Boom. He's just like here to change everything. He's alive. He's wild. You know, never met someone like him before. So, you know, while you're in this degradation of censoring me and attacking children on Christmas, Trey, you need to be a big man to survive your karma. Okay, because you're like, oh, you're not allowing yourself to like, oh, that'd be great to have that freedom of making movies with Hatch in his streaming service. You're like, oh, let's not think about that now. But that's my freaking leverage. That's my love and joy. Trey's like, oh, no good things for me, please. Yes. I'm such a, you cripple yourself emotionally, but then you won't listen to the hope of our friendship into the future. So you're attacking me by allowing yourself to have anxiety. Yeah. All right. So I do apologize in this. Like, I was not intending to be angry at all, but it's just like, it's part of the joke. It's a fucking joke. Hatch being angry is a huge, because he's always like, he's not really angry. I'm from the school of hard knocks, guy. I've had a hard life my whole life and been betrayed by all this the different stuff. Earth knows it. I knew it. But let's get over it. Like, if we can prove that, basically the feeling of 2020, the massive depression here is evidence that the wear map is correct, that we need a revolutionary, like a hero to run for president. It's a completely different campaign now that I missed my foothold. Do you understand? So I'm like adjusting to that and all, but it would really just be best for me if I could work with South Park. I think that's where I want to go. I'm really excited to meet. Like, I want to be in that dimension with South Park, and I would protect their dimension. So it's not about me conquesting. I'd be like navigating around and like going around with my computer mind and stuff, and like Wendy's like in her sanctuary, with huddled up with thousands of other faces and shivering and stuff. Like she's waiting in the wings as they're talking about what to do with South Park. Right? No, I was just kidding, but like, my character goes over and like, there's this pillar of a castle, and I'm like, oh, and then, like, doo-doo-doo, you scan the foundation and it actually says Wendy on it. It's like, oh, this is Wendy's castle, and you look up on top of it, and there's just some sort of like, like this is like throbbing, this is awful, you know, um, stigma of American culture, society, or whatever, like taking, and I'm like, oh, did you know that this nerve ending belongs to you? And she's like, what? I have an inheritance. Like that's what my relationship with is with my guy. I'm always like people. I'm like their doctor, like, oh, that's mine or something, yeah, like making things right. Like I'm basically a cop, you know. So I have detractors. I have people who are trying to prevent my voice. And so you have to detect my character and decide whether or not I'm a bigot or if I'm the bad racist. or if I'm someone who actually believes in the powers of each ethnicity, and I would seek to protect that. But there's something inconvenient there when, you know, the Mexicans don't even want their own power, and they're like, no, no, we are doing something else. We are doing this, and I'm like, uh, wow, you're really missing out over here. Oh, don't be racist, man. I'm like, what? That's like, and it's abstract. I'm not actually pointing at something. It's just like this idea about identity and the spiral. But like, I think it is true. It's true. I mean, okay, but this depression is oppression. Okay, like this racial onset is correct because it's a holy war. Like Earth is like, oh, I'm having a freaking, oh my God, like, oh, the clockwork. I have to work with these snubbly humans. Okay, it's a crisis about residency. So their disrupt is natural. So I'm not saying like they're not doing their thing. They are. I'm not even against these riots. I'm just saying that's not actually how to speak to this child. That's your downtown. Those are your cops, you guys, Like you're really severing, you're like making it, I don't know. It's fine. It's moot. It's not my bag because I was supposed to be this hero that would actually prevent that shit. So I didn't cause that stuff. But the energy of the mob, oh my God, so bad and colludes to censor Hatch. So it's part of the system of the down relating to the abstract of evil, which doesn't support itself or the people that conduct its energy. So evil is self-destructive, um, and people walk that path in the reinforcement of that image. And some people would just say there is no evil. Rely on God. You're walking, and you just do like that. This is like denial is not just a river in Egypt, and denial is not a shield. I actually need the wolf shield. Right? So this is a destiny thing, and I'm seeing angels and corpses all around. I'm like, it's absolutely me and Randy Marsh, Stan Marsh, um, and the Halloween twins, the Alicorn Stallion robot. I think it's hilarious. I think he's really funny to have this little walk cycle. And like I'm a Zen artist, so like I'm like, oh yeah, that 5 seconds, man, that just made my life like worth living. Like, just that he walks like this. Uh, I love South Park. It's a discovery, like when it's like falling in love when you didn't expect how much you would love them. That's how I feel about the characters. I don't know. I don't like too much this hesitation and pseudo professionalism from Trey Parker, but I mean, I see light in Trey. I see the hope of man. I see my best friend in Trey Parker. Thank you for not making a Halloween special, proving that I'm not spying on you psychically. I'm about raising an army of people who are demanding better and doing the work themselves. They're like, I'm making the that the future can be brighter, and we need all ethnicities to do this. So we're supposed to work together as a body of the garden. And so one of them is just gonna have this hot night and it's gonna save the world. Okay, but I need to like raise up, and awaken the heroes. That's my thing of the streaming service and what I'm doing here. And Earth has chosen Trey Parker to be a sort of messiah of society and 2020 to understand what Hatch is saying and produce him and say like, look, you guys, I know this guy doesn't have a big bank account. This is an investment risk, but hey, sometimes we do that. But I think this will make back. Let's just work. How what would let's hire him, work with him on South Park, all right, all this, and I know that I'm not a usual business investment. Like I'm looking for a startup of like 10 to 15 million to start up my company. And so like, imagine like someone catching wind of what I've been doing and being like, oh, this is weird, checking it out. I probably don't even have the right indications to be like, oh, this is business worthy. But actually, what I'm talking about is exactly what is business worthy. He's like, what he's talking about, changing what it looks like in the American home. He's changing everything. It's a huge business, very profitable is what Hatch is talking about. His own intellectual streaming service with a startup, So Punk, coming out through South Park. Yeah. So I mean, like I'm seeing, like I see South Park like limping, and I'm supposed to be like this to South Park, and in ways I was like was like had all this stuff, and he was changing his life, and he was announcing he's going to do a movie and all this. And I'm like, Trey, why are you leaving me out of this? Is obviously you and me's friendship dwindling in your heart like this. And but it's very rare. This is like two unicorns meeting for the first time in the universe. Beginning, origin stuff happens, and don't let your hand tremble when you meet your destiny, Trey. But be great, be charismatic. Hire me for South Park. All right. Thank you so much, Trey. I've given you a lot to think about. So thank you. I mean, I've proven I'm not psychic because, like, you guys didn't have a Halloween special. So, like, I apologize for being rude to you guys before. It's just like, I know that I represent superpowers and liberation for all races, but I think what you're listening, the way you guys listen, you guys think I'm attacking Trey, you think I'm racist. Okay, that's you oppressing the children and attacking Greta on Christmas, for which you'd be awarded with, $500 million. So confusing like molestation from capitalism and a startling revelation from Hatch. So who wins in that battle? But in society, the discovery of this material is not huge. It's not rocking the narrative, and it should. This is actually a revolutionary material. That means that we actually can make solar panels work, which is amazing for electric cars and smart cities, super cities. So, yeah, I'm really interested in this friendship between Eric Cartman and this Alicorn robot because it happened through Zen while I was painting. It was supposed to be Wendy, but it ended up being Eric, and like it made a little bit more sense because on one side I want to see the I think it's hilarious, but I mean on one side I want to see the unicorn robot struggling with the weight of how fat Eric Garner is. He's like struggling with it, but at the same time, he's a robot. The Alicon robot is a robot, so he's able to continue running, and he supports the weight of Eric Cartman. Okay, so I want Eric Cartman to find a friend who doesn't fall down when he jumps on his back. So that's what is funny. Okay, so it's like a dad joke, but it's like yeah, it is sort of funny also to imagine that like you can hear like mechanical strain, like a little bit of smoke uh, coming out from the. All right. But for Eric, he's sort of like Eric Cartman is sort of like the princess who's like running away, crying with like I'm gonna run away with my unicorn now. So like Eric is sort of like performing as the princess, but it has to do with like programming robots and how to awaken. So Eric ultimately learns something through this interaction. Eric learns something about the computer, and that leads into his input when he's programming the Green Wolf robot, which will cause fans to make a theory when that Eric Cartman's invention was the reason why the Green Wolf robot awoke. Whereas some people would just assume that the credit for the Green Wolf robot awakening is belongs to Hatch, or they're just thinking, oh, the robot inventor's robot awoke, so. Or some people think it was the perversion of Randy Marsh. because there's this part where Randy Marsh is doing battle with Hatch inside virtual reality brain of the Green Wolf robot. And some people think, oh, that's why. So that's the spice of it, where people are involved in the narrative in this dream way. And then that's how they're actually involved in the physics of performing the cure to the environmental crisis. Because they actually see it happen, and it's an epiphany for everyone. But there's different ways of of enjoying the story. My Destiny Collins Mill. It's like an icon of a factory, and it really begins that way because it's a narrative. It's a story about this lone wolf. Like, oh, it's a Hatch is in his. He's like, oh, I'm in my streaming service factory. Ah, people are like, oh, this is from the South Park. So it's like the building is huge, and it's really funny. And to begin with, my streaming service is working with people working from home. But like eventually, so like it's the perfect avenue for us to survive because it's going to take a while to refurbish this building anyway. So it's a narrative to recover from the depression of 2020. It's a narrative for American capitalism to recover. And it's a good story. And also people are going to find their job. They're like, "Oh, I invented a cartoon and it got picked up by the streaming service. And now my career is making my cartoon at Collins Mill." Yeah, there's hundreds of people but one of them's like, "Yeah," and he's like smarter than Rick and Morty. But he's like, "Yeah, like I couldn't get a job anywhere. But these guys picked up my show. It's commission based, but I think I get paid more than what wage jockeys, something like that. And so those types of heroes are gonna rise up. I'm excited to meet those people. So the map is like, I know that's not it's like it's important to me because I understand about green-eyed physics. You can't make the future predetermined. So even though the Bible predicted that this would be a time potentially of apocalypse, which means good and bad, it doesn't mean that the Bible forced a bad thing to happen in this age of man. But that sort of understanding or that sort of balance might not be intuitive. Anyway, let me get away from that. I apologize about that. Like I know, like here's the thing about notes about why orange is different, but it also has to do with a lot of stuff. But so I'm working and like I'm hearing through the earth, I'm hearing from the dimension where my artwork lives. But that artwork is actually a suit of armor. It was my first armor. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this super robot armor. It's a painting of me with a sword of justice, and I use this sword of justice to straighten the fate of New York City. And so he like becomes it's like Batman to New York City is the sort of justice character. Um anyway, I digress. So I want to talk more about these characters. Like this is a portrait of like the honeymoon between Hatch and Millie and their cyberpunk love and discovery of one another. They started building little things together, and that became a sort of their how they're connected. Here's the Alicorn Stallion robot. And I just love it. It looks like this looks like Millie's hand. Like Millie has her hand around like right there. She's like reaching over here a little bit, and Hatch is sort of just resting right here. Um, yeah, and like I'm really excited about working with Trey. I'm excited. I would be really happy. All right. And so I'm going to be working, fighting for, you know, the. I can see where things are being underrepresented. This is really important, but people aren't talking about it properly to the point where I have diagnosed that America has a huge depression that I need to synthesize a cure through South Park and then using Japan and London or Tokyo and London because because of the human narrative. Um, yeah, it's sort of like, the Electoral College that should have appointed Hillary Clinton, she had the popular vote. Because the electoral college is the broken thing that is damaging the meditation of cities. So the cities, Los Angeles and New York, we're expensively polluting, and then to the degree where our intellect is not persuading the vote. So Hillary Clinton, voted by cities, would not be appointed. That causes a depression. And now people don't believe that the cities creates intellectual, societal, leadership, progress ratio. Okay? So that's why I have to talk with Tokyo and London to get people into the narrative being excited about their own innovation with cities and computers and robots. It's a tremendous maneuver. Um, and, I have a huge, um, all right, I've got a huge boner for South Park. I'm saying it, but I'm going to keep it straight. I'm going to keep it on the mark, on the line, right? Uh, but I like, yeah, like Hatch is this guy who, like, he is a wild man. He'll stay up all night when he's really interested working on something, and he's he doesn't believe in a lot of stuff, so he's very different, and his kids are different. Um, but they're preparing for the market of the future. So the Halloween twins are all about robotics and factoring and technology, and they're involved with it. Their hands are on it, and they're actually working with it and learning things that you can't learn in school because they don't even teach the future markets in school. So it's important for our communication industry, for South Park, to do this and deliver intelligence. It's a completely different American voice. Hatch is unique. Hatch is an important director, and I'd be so indebted to you guys rightly. We're going to keep our relationship correct and in balance, which means, I am here promoting our work together, Trey, right now. I'm upholding my side of the relationship. But it means, like, even as we go into the future, we need to respect one another. So that's there. We've agreed. Perfect design. All right. Thank you so much, Trey. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan of Randolph the Fourth. Trey Parker would be unstoppable. Trey Parker would be an unstoppable force if women had provided the fourth. And as a green-eyed wizard, I understand that Trey has honor, but he has a like he has a depression, right? But he can pull it off. All you need to do is work with Hatch, and then I see Randolph the Fourth being born to you in the future, a healthy, perfect, beautiful baby boy, wearing perfect Trey Parker armor and being the prophecy of his line, all the way down to Randolph the First, right? In the age of cannibalism, right? So, Trey is deep with Colorado and the nature of Tesla, like moving through there, but something weird happened there. It's all there's like these rhythms of history, and it's powerful. It's a story about America. Hatch representing the East Coast, representing Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, New York City, Washington, capital, the political center. Um, and that is it's a delicious formula for us, for Hatch and Trey, to work together. I think our voices will be really good on South Park, and I'm looking forward to it. Please, Trey, work hard to give me this job. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, all right, thank you. Um, yeah, I think it's, I was sort of doing this, like I understand what I was doing. Do you know, hey Vern, you know what I mean? Do you remember Ernest? Ernest Goes to Camp. He's like one of my favorite comedians, actually, and I was a huge fan when I was a kid. of Ernest goes to camp and all that. But the whole joke about Ernest leaning into the window, "Hey Vern, have you heard about this new product?" And then, he slams the window on his fingers or whatever. Like that was what I was doing with Trey Parker. I was like, "Hey Trey, have you heard about this new thing?" And Trey's like, "Who the hell are you? Who is this guy?" I just feel like talking to Trey like he's my neighbor. "Hey Vern, you heard about this new product? It's got it's all the things you need." Oh man, so good. But yeah, no, I was doing a bit where I'm approaching Trey like with way too much familiarity, but I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, so Trey, please give me this job. Like I'm really, I'm hardworking and I have a lot of ideas and I care about this country so much, but I also care about the universe. I'm a full picture thing, but I understand the usefulness of being polite and having an accent. You understand, pacing. Like, oh, you know. So you and I, Trey, I think we've been digging a deep well, a stone well, hand dug, of our relationship. We're building Earth. We're building something here with our meditation. So thank you so much, Trey. I really appreciate your time and energy. Uh, you know, it is magical. It is right. I'm looking forward to seeing these characters interact, and that's going to bubble up through Trey in ways he'll be like, "Oh, I can tell my characters are excited. I have inspiration to write the script and all." Thank you so much, Trey. I really appreciate it. It's historical. It's important, and we're planting the perfect seed for the future. All right, for the revolution of America, for the intellectual rise, and for the recovery, and in fact, the dominion of America. For us to perfect what we're doing as a nation is to be this type of advanced before the flood character. All right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's perfect. It is complete. It is good. True love is the answer.